Coach, can you just talk about the production the last couple weeks with Maurice out and kind of what's the mindset of how you guys, give guys reps and that kind of thing without him?
I mean, I think it's a competitive room. Kind of like I told you guys before the season began, I think, we've got a lot of different pieces in that room, and they're competitive and they care about each other. It's kind of just been a next man up mentality, and we've got good leadership in that room between Don Chaney Jr. and Maurice Turner. Even though Maurice hasn't been on the field, he's still been vocal with our young guys and really helping those guys out tremendously. And I've been very, very pleased with the amount of production that we've had in his absence. We definitely miss his leadership and his ability to come out and be productive for us, but I think that the other guys have done a good job of stepping up and making plays when they've had their opportunities.
Chris, going off of that, before the season started, you said that Isaac was the guy that you could see, embracing pressure and rising to the occasion. For him to have his first collegiate start as a true freshman at Notre Dame, that kind of environment, I guess just evaluate his performance.
Yeah, I was very pleased with Isaac. He's just one of those type of young men that is rarely rattled. I think, he's overcome a lot of adversity in his life, and he's just got an unshakable kind of demeanor, and so I've never really anticipated him struggling with the moment being too big or anything like that. That is a great environment to have your first start, and for a young guy, I thought he really handled the elements well. I thought he handled the crowd noise, and he was productive for us. I thought he was very productive, ran hard, broke tackles, made people miss. And then the catch, Coach and I were just speaking about it just now. We were upstairs watching some film on SMU, but he was like, that catch that he had for our first touchdown, he said, that was special. That was one of the better catches I've seen in a while. And so we're just tickled to death about where he is. Want to continue to see him grow. There's still some areas where in his game that he needs to grow, and he and I have discussed those things. But very pleased with his production, how he handled the environment on Saturday.
Yeah, Chris, you guys have a number of guys who can play and have been productive. How do you decide, when you give the carries out or who's going to be in there? How do you make those decisions?
I think it's a feel thing. I think it's kind of a feel thing. I chart a lot during the game, and that's something I started some years ago when I was kind of freed up from some of the signaling duties. And it's really helped me get a better grasp on the game and how the game is flowing, how my position is producing. And it's kind of a visual, and I can go in between plays, in between series, and evaluate the chart and look at the type of production that we're having on third down. Are we converting on third down? Is this young man catching footballs when he's targeted in the passing game? And when we're targeting him in the running game, what's that production looking like? Are we moving the chains? Are we ahead of schedule? Are we behind schedule? And so, 2 weeks ago, I think against Georgia Tech, it was a little bit more of John Chaney Jr. It was kind of more a gritty game, smaller holes, more yards after contact, more of a physical game. And in those environments, I think Don provides some things that the other ones don't. And then, Saturday, it was one of those situations where we felt like we could exploit some matchups on the perimeter, and and Isaac did a really good job in that regard. Gave us some advantages there. So it just I think it kind of goes game by game, but certainly excited about the room.
Last year, when War was having his big season, he goes down, in comes Isaac. He ends up having a great year. Both guys end up going to the NFL. This year, Maurice goes down, Don stepped up, Isaac stepped up. In both these years, what's led to this consistent depth at this position?
Well, I first got to give credit to our offensive line. Coach Richard Owens does a tremendous job. None of these opportunities would be available to these young men if you don't have a dominant offensive line, and we've got full faith in our offensive line. And yes, schematically we do like to spread the field and push the ball downfield, and that's always going to be a part of our DNA. But Coach has said it many times. In order for that to be effective, we've got to have a productive running game to be able to set up the pass. And our offensive line does a great job, along with our tight ends. I think Coach Wallace does a great job. We've got some real depth there, some pieces that are more valuable in the passing game, some that are more valuable in the running game. So when they're able to open those holes up, that really creates a lot of opportunity for our backs. And like I said, it's just a competitive room, and that's kind of the way that I like the room to be. I believe that multiple guys need to play. I don't really believe that there's one back that does it all anymore. I mean, I think there's a few special players out there across the country, but in general, it's a rugged position, and you need multiple guys that can do different jobs and be able to be effective over the course of the season. And so I think more long-term than just right now in this game. I think about not only winning the game, but I think about their long-term career and the position itself and how rugged it is, and like the ability to play for a while. You need to be able to spread some of those carries out and do some different jobs. And so those young men, I think they have a good feel for what they do best, and they're really pushing each other to continue to improve.
Chris, you guys are facing another defense that ranks amongst the top 20 in run defense, Georgia Tech being the other, and they kind of kept you guys in check. Obviously, defenses aren't all built the same, but what do you see in the Mustangs defense that's coming up this weekend?
Very opportunistic. I mean, they've done a really good job through 5 games now in turning the other opponent over. I think they've forced 14 turnovers, I believe, is what I heard. Which that's going to be something that we have to do a better job of. I think that became an issue for us, unfortunately, last week, and we were talking about it as I was meeting with the guys yesterday. We were watching the tape, working through it. I felt bad because I feel like we really played hard, but for the first time this year, the turnover showed up, and in that instance, we were unsuccessful. Where I feel like 2 weeks ago against Georgia Tech, we played hard. We weren't overly productive in the running game. But the one thing that we came out of with that game was we didn't turn the ball over, fellas, so we won the game. They turned the ball over once. We didn't. We win by 1 touchdown. Where this past weekend, we played well. We just turned it over too many times. Plus, we ended up -1 for the game. We lost by a touchdown. So it's critical that we have production, but we also make sure we take care of the football. But that's what I see from them. Their defense, they do a good job on the front. They've got a young man, number 5, defensive lineman. He's a stud. And then they've got some good players. They're opportunistic on the back end. The secondary, they do a good job finding the football. So we've just got to do a really good job being disciplined with what we do.
Coach, to kind of piggyback off their great defense, they've allowed less than 89 rushing yards per game. How do you plan on, as the coach of the running backs, to utilize the plethora of backs you guys have to sustain and overcome that defense?
I mean, that's a challenge every week. I think this is a very competitive league, and I really challenged the unit after Georgia Tech. I didn't sleep well last week, and it was reminiscent of the NC State game from 2023. Not used to our unit being minimized in that regard, and so I really challenged them, and I thought they really came out and really had a really good week of practice, and they did a great job of pushing each other, understanding the opponent. And I thought they came out last week and they really were excited about that opportunity to compete against a really good defense on the road and show that they can be productive against some of the better defenses and teams in this country. And so with this team, SMU, they're doing a really good job versus the run. They mix it up. They're moving up front, creating confusion and causing the offensive line to communicate. We have full faith in our offensive line to get it blocked up, and we'll scheme some things up that might open up some opportunities for us. But it's just going to be a matter of accepting the challenge and running hard. We've got to break tackles. We've got to win in a phone booth, and we've got to win in space. And the guys that are doing those things most productively and most consistently will probably have a lot of production. So I think they're excited as they watch film. They're excited about the opportunities that will present themselves.
Chris, Keelan's played steady and solid, when he's been in there, and Duke's shown some flashes. Talk about both of those guys, and assume with Duke, he's gonna still get those, some reps throughout the year.
Yes, no, Bama and Duke have done a really good job. They provide some different elements for us. I think Duke obviously has some wiggle and some pizzazz to him that it's exciting. I think the best thing he does right now is have the ball in his hand. I mean, he's still coming along in a protection standpoint. Isaac's a little bit ahead of him in that regard because Isaac's been here for another semester, where Duke's still kind of learning some of these nuances in the pass protection game. But he's special with the ball in his hand, and we haven't lost faith in him. Want to continue to keep bringing him along. Definitely think he has a very bright future. And And at some point, you know, he'll show up again like you saw him earlier this season. Definitely, you know, we'll see what happens this Saturday, but he's definitely doing a good job. He understands what he needs to do to continue to improve. And Keywan, I think, is doing some things very well as well. He's a tough runner. He does a good job breaking tackles, and he sees I think he sees the holes pretty well. He has good anticipation in the run game. He needs to continue to clean up his pass protection technique, which we've talked about. He's got God-given length in his arms. He's got really good length to be able to be effective in pass protection. It's just to clean up the technique part of it, and he's seeing it. So there's not many mistakes. It's just a matter of executing the actual block itself. So he's another one, very detailed kid, cares about it, goes about his work, and again, Maurice and Don and some of the other guys are doing a really good job helping some of those younger guys come along. We're excited about the whole room.